have it at the right angle. We'll experiment. Yes, we will. Wait, what? What? Okay. Let's see. I want that there, so that way behind you can still see the thing. I'm a bobber, so I need to move this here. Okay. How's that? How is that? I think it's all right. Okay. Welcome to this storytelling. This astrological storytelling. It's something that I do periodically. It's something that isn't empirical, but maybe is helpful to some. On the journey through life, where do we begin with these readings, these occult readings? Essentially, using this as inspiration for a made-up story, which hopefully helps you. I take it seriously, though. I think that's the difference. That's the difference. The sun is now in Pisces at the time of this full moon in Virgo. So, the sun, the solar force in Pisces, it is unable to make a easy relationship with Leo. Pisces is in general, because it's just sort of in that interesting space. So right here, here's Leo, right? This is summertime, the sun's territory in the northern hemisphere, which is where most people live. Sorry, Australia. I mean, South America. I mean, there's a lot of places. I'm just saying, I'm not going to waste time on that. I'm just going to tell the story. The sun's territory, since it's in Pisces, it's not the opposite in winter, which is maybe one of the worst places for the sun to be, given that the sun can only rule Leo. It doesn't have multiple spaces it's in charge of. So Aquarius is maybe the worst place for the sun to be. Libra probably a close second. Pisces is interesting because it isn't necessarily like the fall or the detriment of the sun, right? It isn't opposite Aries in Libra. It isn't opposite Leo. It's an interesting space. It's an interesting space. I have the sun there, and when I think about the sun being glorified in the lion, it's probably because the lion is proud and powerful and bright in its manifestation, whereas a fish is sort of like a little more flighty. So a little more go with the flow, safety in numbers kind of a thing. There's all different types of fish, of course. Like me, I'm a bit of a lionfish. I actually have to work with that in my chart because of mutual reception between Jupiter and the sun. But this sun in Pisces, a dreamy, porous, like feeling deeply the situations that it finds itself in. Lots of things to scurry away from. Now, what kind of fish is it? What rules over Pisces? Jupiter, right? This Jupiter in this chart is in Taurus. So that Taurasian Jupiter is in that point of the story, the heart of spring. So it's warm enough, the birds are coming out, the flowers are blooming. It's really wanting to do the pleasant, comfortable day-to-day things, like fresh bread with delicious cheese, hopefully harvested in a way that doesn't cause the animal suffering. So maybe we're going way old school as opposed to like factory farm experiences, like you're milking the goat. Like that kind of an experience. So, Jupiter in Taurus. What rules over Jupiter in Taurus? Well, Venus in Aquarius. Alright, so Venus in Aquarius. So, uh, what is the relationship between first the Sun and Jupiter? It's actually fine. It's actually quite fine. There's a sextile happening. So that's this blue line here. So the first movement of the Sun, which in Pisces is more neutral, right? It's the place between exaltation, which is, you know, very, very bold and forward in Aries, or detriment in Aquarius. So since it's in the in-between of those, so it's closer to the Aquarius side of things, yes, but it's not able to be seen by the Sun. So we know that there's definitely challenges. There's definitely challenges, I think, to the Sun in Pisces, but not as much as Aquarius. Maybe I still don't think it's great. Pisces is pretty. It's an interesting thing. I just don't think that the violent power of the Sun is easily kind of connected with. I guess it depends. I guess it depends on other things. But anyways, that Jupiter in Taurus is sextiling, so there's a really powerful relationship between the Sun and Jupiter, which is good. There's an exchange happening there, a feminine exchange. How I think it's how your daily patterns fit in with the collective. There's a really good opportunity there to expand and to grow. So how does what I'm consuming impact the rest of the world? I think that there's a really interesting conversation around that. I think I'm doing well because of the way that I'm trying to approach shopping. I know that plastic is probably something to avoid. I know that I need to think about the soil's quality. So how can I make purchases that are supporting these cutting edge, leading ideas? So yeah, reducing waste, thinking about like enjoying your shower and being clean, but also not like indulging in like hour-long hot water runoff, not only because it'll save you money, but because we should just be responsible with our water usage. Like, so many different things there to discuss. But what's ruling over that Jupiter? It is Venus in Aquarius. So this relationship isn't as smooth as the Sun to Jupiter, right? The relationship is more challenging. Now you can see that it's on the nose challenging because of this red line here. You can see it there. I should get my laser pointer or a stick or something, just so that way I can add variety. Or I could do a spoon. That's very Taurus, right? Let me get a wand. I'll find a stick. 1 second, guys. Perfect. Perfect. So, yes, that one right there, that is a square. So there's the tension between the Jupiter and the Venus. But what I will say is it's not like an opposition, right? They're not this amount of tension. It isn't easy because it does mean that there's a negotiation that has to take place between Venus and Jupiter. And Venus in Aquarius is a bit detached. So if you have Venus in Aquarius, you can sort of comment and let me know what your love life is like, but it's almost interesting to suggest this because I don't want to hurt people's feelings and I don't want to be fatalistic. But in my experience with Venus and Aquarius people, there's like I'm not wanting super touchy-feely close. Like Taurus is like, put it in my butt, put it in my mouth. Like, whereas Venus and Aquarius is more detached, and it's an interesting one. I don't think it's bad by any means to have Venus in Aquarius. Again, it's one of those things where it's more neutral. it's a more neutral, cool, slightly above the surface, like best friends as opposed to like deep, 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 like crazy, like pleasure. It's more like, alright, I'm detached a bit from this, but it's cool. The thing about that Aquarius Venus is that it is conjunct Mars. Now, we're holding off on that a bit because I want to start establishing the rulership pattern. But because the conjunction is so close, you can see it here, it's like within a degree. I don't know, like the sun, it is very powerful, so it's absorbing Mercury, it's obscuring Mercury more like, but it's pretty close, and Saturn is kind of being obscured by the sun as well. It's just, the sun is so bright and so powerful, kind of like Leo's. Like sometimes they just sort of take a little bit more space than probably is mindful because of it. But I don't know if people can always help it. But yeah, this Mars and Venus, they're not like that. Like you'd be able to look up at the heavens and see the very bright Venus and the slightly reddish Mars like hanging out next to each other, and they wouldn't be necessarily obscuring each other, but they are definitely sort of being connected in a way. Like, and when you have someone like War and Goddess of Love, Goddess of War, like these abstract archetypes now merging in Aquarius. I prefer Mars in Aquarius, I think, for myself, because I have Mars in Gemini. I sort of think that could be like a really interesting being to sort of like explore. I mean, I have Venus in Taurus, so I'm like, touch me. But the Mars in Aquarius and this Venus in Aquarius have an interesting like fiery comfortability coming together, right? It's very much interested in executing on a system. It wants to serve in a structured way based upon what it has learned and researched with like probably an incredible amount of depth, and like it really geeks out and gets certified kind of. But these Venus Mars energies coming together, it's just and the square, right? The square, that access point, I just find it a bit feisty. It's a bit feisty. Now, where is that little combination Venus and Aquarius? So started with the Sun in Pisces, ruled over by Jupiter and Taurus, ruled over by Venus and Aquarius, definitely getting some heat. That connection's getting some fire. What rules over that Venus? Saturn, back in Pisces. So we made the loop for the Sun. Pisces to Taurus to Aquarius, now back to Pisces. And this Pisces Saturn is being obscured by the Sun. So Saturn and Pisces, Saturn is in charge of these two in traditional astrology, right? So it's essentially, during COVID, it just sort of did its number there, and now it's like diffusing a bit into Pisces, so the boundaries are getting a little less rigid, a little more imaginative and collective, and yeah, that's gonna be an interesting transit to see what kind of how death and how limitations and all that stuff just sort of seeps in to the collective, because Pisces is very good at seeping. That cold, rigid Saturn, I don't like saying it's like the heart of winter, but so it's still in the winter time, which I think it likes. I don't think Saturn is gonna have a hard time anywhere but probably Leo, and Aries is kind of challenging for it as well. So it's not quite there yet. It's still on the Aquarius side of Pisces, but yeah, it'll get a little interesting once that Saturn and Aries stage comes. A little darker, a little more struggly. So this Saturn being obstructed by the Sun, I'm not sure how clear it is where the obstruction is going to be during this full moon, like where you're going to be limited and where you're going to be sort of kind of like frozen impassable solid boundaries that are going to just sort of pop up suddenly. I don't know, I mean suddenly may be the wrong word, but I just don't think you're going to, they're probably there, you just didn't know they were there, and you'll find the boundary and be like, oh, there's the boundary. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. But you know, keep poking around. You'll find a way out. I mean, what other choice do you have? But yeah, so then that's the loop. Sun and Saturn are in a conjunction, not as strong as the Mars and Venus conjunction. But yeah, so that's sort of the trajectory of the Sun. The Sun is its first connection is sextile, then it's square, and then it's an inconjunct transition. So it's okay. There's an opportunity there. Wait a minute, like this is a bit of a balance here. Like I don't know if that's gonna work, or that there's an aggression that's sort of having to be dealt with in a kind of like detached kind of way, and then it's like, oh fuck, that didn't work. Like it's not maybe like the sexiest Sun time. It's not the worst, right? Like the Sun is not in a bad way. Jupiter's not in a bad way. Mars and Venus are not in a bad way. Saturn is not in a bad way, minus the obstruction from the Sun. But it is just sort of like, yep, more of this kind of. What do you do with that? Like, what do you do with that, like, sort of challenging energy, but not like it's a bit. Man, those birds though. Just listening to the birds. That can be your thing. That can be your thing during this. Listen to their social life, their communication. What might be inspiring them? You can do that in the mundanity, in the neutralness. You can make sauerkraut. That's what I did. I don't know if I added enough salt because I don't know what the word is, but there's a word that I'm missing. Fermented some sort of word. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay, so that was the Sun. Now let's go to the Moon. Now the Moon is in Virgo. Moon in Virgo. I would say that the Moon, it's going to be sucked into a similar flow, right? Why? Because the Moon in Virgo, which is interested in perfecting the things and really like cleaning the whole kitchen, putting everything in its right spot, as opposed to sort of, yeah, whatever, just put it somewhere. Like, no, it wants a system. It wants things to be in the right spot, so that way it goes well. Like, imagine a surgeon who's like, yeah, like, okay, let's open them up. Oh wait, we don't have the tools that we need to make that incision, or no, like, you need to get the details right. Virgo wants that. And what rules over Virgo? Mercury. So this moon, which rules over Cancer, by the way, and there's nothing in Cancer right now to speak of regarding like the main items in the solar system, right? Not the, there's obviously something in Cancer. There's a shit ton of stuff in the galaxy, but at some point it's like, I don't need more details for the story. My brain can only handle so much. But the moon in Virgo, rolling over Cancer, is ruled over by that Mercury, which is even more like central to this sun. So the visibility of Mercury is not a thing. That is not a thing. Unless, I don't know, if it passes in front of the sun. Sometimes you can see it even, but yeah, sometimes it's on the other side. I'm actually not sure if this is the Mercury that passes in front of the sun, which you might be able to see, blotting out a little bit of the light. But you'd have to have special equipment, because you can't look at the sun like that anyways. You have to have something so you don't get damaged. We've got to protect the eyes. You can't, at least, people look into the sun, but maybe you should do that like at sunset or something. Whatever. The atmosphere is really helping to like protect you. I don't think it's advisable to just stare at the sun. So, okay. Anywho, there we go with that Mercury and Pisces. Now let's talk about Mercury and Pisces. Mercury and Pisces. This is one of those things where you tell the worst story, the most challenging story, because when you have Mercury present in Pisces, it's not in its element. That doesn't mean that there isn't incredible amounts of beautiful ideation and artistry that can be utilized, channeled very, very, very oh, that's reminding me, I need to go get blood work done. Very good, Caleb. Very good. Knowing what your alarm is for. This Mercury in Pisces, it wants to do its Mercury thing, which is like to exchange information and to say like, let's talk about this, let's perfect this, let's get this detail right, let's put this here, and let's mark this out, let's edit this, let's explore this. Like, so it's in a space where it is so much. There's so many different things, and it may not be the most organized. And it's being obstructed by the sun, so it's like, oh god, like, there's not really a, like, it's like you're lost at sea. You're lost. You're lost at sea. And it's an opposition, right? Like, you can clearly see. So it's tough. You're lost. You're confused. Your message ain't getting through. The details that you want to serve, you're not doing it. It's not happening. But maybe this can be good. You can become aware of the thing that you're just not doing, the message that's just not getting through. And it will become perhaps apparent to you, like, oh, like for me, the message of exercise is good for you. I hear that message, but is it getting through? Am I exercising? Are you? The message around drinking sugary beverages. Is it getting through? Are you doing it? All the different things, all the different messages. So, that Mercury, which is not doing so hot, is ruled over by, of course, Jupiter in Taurus, which is ruled over by Venus in Aquarius, which is ruled over by Saturn in Pisces, which is ruled over by Jupiter. Wait a minute. Yes, that's right. Jupiter in Taurus, Venus, Saturn. So, yeah, it ends up going back to that Venus, Saturn, Jupiter combo. It all's coming down to that. Venus is definitely getting Marsed up. Mars has a say. There's a fight there. Saturn and Mercury, you can't escape them. They're just being obscured by this profound vitality. Even, like, okay, so I have the sun in Pisces, right? So I also have that vitality. But it's not like a Leo's vitality. It's very different. It's sort of like, yep, I'm flowing with it all. There isn't that, like, individualism to the same extent. That is mitigated, though, by my Jupiter in Leo. But it doesn't feel like a Leo's, because it's almost like Leos just don't know how to deal with things that are not themselves. Like, again, it's a good place to be a Leo. Like, if you have a self, like, you have a self. But once you get into Pisces, it's like yourself is everything. Like, it gets very blubbery. Whereas I just don't think Leos necessarily have that kind of a way of expressing. Like, Leos are lovely, but cats don't want to get wet, and the sun is in Pisces. Yeah. Anywho, we basically have talked about everything. Pluto is in Aquarius now. It's gonna be there for a long time. A long, long time. Does it make one more dip into Capricorn at the end of the year? I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look at ephemeris. I can't recall. Pluto's awfully slow, and it's right on that point. It may migrate back into Capricorn at the end of the year, and then make its way into Aquarius for like the final time, at least in our lifetimes. So for me, it's like, okay, there's a little more creative achievement, romance, power, transformative, below the surface stuff that's happening, and then it's gonna move into more like the work, health. Ugh, I don't know, the underworld, Pluto energy, but let's see. Uranus is chilling in Taurus. It's not directly impacting anything, but oh yeah, Neptune is similarly in Pisces. I'm curious about this Neptune placement because it's on my sun, right? And I definitely feel that as the sun moves towards this Neptune, that there is this, like, the diffusing, dreamy quality of Pisces and Neptune. I can definitely see why modern rulers are liking that one there. And I'm not fond of giving the outer planets like rulership. It just doesn't make as much sense to me. But I can see how Neptune in Pisces is a really interesting fit. Where when I was born, like Neptune in Capricorn, it really hasn't moved that much. Neptune was in Capricorn when I was born, as was I think Uranus and Neptune were both in Capricorn when I was born. So Uranus has moved into Taurus since then, and it's moved into Pisces. So you can see, like, based on when you were born, like, how much has happened. Pluto was in Scorpio, so it's moved into 1, 2. Yeah, now into that third new sign. I guess technically fourth. So that Pluto square energy is coming up for me. Your chart's different, obviously, depending on how old you are, where you were born. I'm feeling this thing in my center of my heart. It's not like the actual heart, it's like right here. It's really interesting. Kind of twitchy. Woo! Woo! Something twitchy. What else was I gonna say? We've done all the planets. I think it's time for me to go get my blood drawn. Not my favorite, but also seems to go fine. Get a good phlebotomist. The north and south node axis, or that eclipse that's coming up in a couple, was it only a month? It might only be like a month-ish, or maybe 2 months. Not long. As the sun makes the intersection between this point, Chiron hanging out at the south node, what a portal! It's not being activated though. I don't think we need to go into it too much this time. Yeah, well, I think we've kind of discovered it. The general point of interest to me, visually, is Jupiter in Taurus, which is nice. Jupiter's very much involved. Very, very involved. Learn, be educated, be blessed by your daily habits. Daily. Seek out the good smells. Trust your nose. Some dude was doing poppers, I think. And I'm like, my nose very much avoids that. Like, my nose is just like, nope, not doing that. Like, smelling flower in Los Angeles, you know, I actually really like the smell of it. It doesn't give me that, like, danger scent. Though, ingesting it into the lungs. Ending.